Welcome. The title of this presentation is Stress First Aid for Points of Dispensing. This is specialized training for all pod workers. This presentation is being presented by Dr. John Call, Unit Coordinator for the Oklahoma Medical Reserve Corps Stress Response Team. Stress First Aid is a set of supportive actions designed to help you with self-care and peer support to mitigate the negative impacts of stress. SFA is a framework to improve recovery from stress reactions in oneself, in peers, and in citizens visiting pods. It's based on research supporting the value of key elements that are related to recovery from different types of ongoing adversity. The framework aims to support and validate good friendship, mentorship, and leadership actions. Flexibility and tiny steps are emphasized. SFA should always be tailored in a flexible way to fit your personality and style, as well as your capacity to help others in any given moment. It should look different for each person who implements it and within each context it's implemented within. The timing and context are important to how one uses SFA. What you can achieve with any interaction depends on many factors, such as how much time you have, where you are, how open a person is to hearing what you have to say, and how long after the incident the conversation takes place. Mentoring and problem solving are highlighted. Your role may be to provide immediate support and possible assistance, either verbally or through your actions, to someone reacting to overwhelming stress in a highly stressful moment. Or you may need to help a peer problem solve and manage tasks that seem overwhelming to them when they've been under significant stress for an extended period of time. SFA is not meant to address all ranges of issues. It's a first aid model and not designed to deal with lifelong problems, personality issues, or serious mental health issues. Bridging to a higher care is recommended in those instances. Always think in terms of referring a person on to an employee assistance program, a mental health provider, or other professional if they're having difficulty adjusting and are experiencing disabling or persistent stress reactions. Effective short-term treatments are available. Being a bridge to that type of care may be your most helpful SFA action. How can you use SFA? The use of POD SFA core actions help pod workers promote recovery in self, peers, and citizens faced with the crisis of COVID-19 pandemic. Its use augments, restores, and leverages the affected individual's natural resilience. These approaches should be used flexibly and naturally wherever and whenever needed, individualized to the needs of each person in the context of the situation. No one size fits all. Used in collaboration with other resources to create effective solutions for the people you serve. Remember, the most basic principle in POD SFA is to treat people as you would want to be treated. Every person you encounter is someone's mother, father, sister, brother, child, or friend. So try always to treat them as you would your own. This is a stress continuum model. The stress continuum model was developed as a visual tool for assessing an individual's stress experiences, zones of stress, and stress responses. It forms the foundation of stress first aid. It also indicates that four possible types of stress injury: trauma, loss, interconflict, moral injury, and long-term chronic stress or wear and tear might move a person from the yellow zone of stress to the orange or red zone. Stress responses lie along a spectrum of severity and type, from transient and mild to chronic and debilitating. The continuum has four zones: ready, green; reacting, yellow; injured, orange; and ill, red. It's important to note that 100% of people will react when faced with significantly stressful experiences. However, the way in which they respond will depend on many factors, including how prepared they are for the stressor and how they interpret it. A person's reaction can range relatively rapidly from green to yellow to orange to red and back again. Stress first aid was adapted from the Navy Marine Corps Combat Operational Stress First Aid. The stress continuum model was developed as a visual tool for assessing an individual's stress responses and forms the foundation for both COSFA and SFA. It was also designed to reduce stigma by showing that people can go in and out of ranges of stress reaction frequently, based upon a variety of factors. This model acknowledges that within this range of reactions to stress, a person can go from being in optimal functioning, feeling good, mentally and physically fit, mission focused, calm, motivated, in what's called the yellow zone. In the yellow zone, a person can feel more irritable, anxious, or down, have a loss of motivation, a loss of focus, have trouble sleeping, or have muscle tension or other physical changes. But these are transient reactions in the yellow zone. Movement into the orange zone is usually caused by an accumulation of different types of stressors or a pretty severe stressor. In the orange zone, you start to see more severe and persistent distress. The person doesn't feel like themselves, or they have a loss of control of their stress reactions. They might feel strong panic or depression, rage, guilt, or blame. In this zone, it starts to feel like the stress leaves a scar, and the person is at high risk for having trouble functioning. The red zone is usually reserved for diagnoses like PTSD, depression, anxiety, or substance abuse. What signifies a person being in red zone is that their symptoms are very persistent or worsen over time. The person experiences severe distress or has significant difficulty functioning at work or in their home life. The stress first aid model was designed to help people to move themselves or peers from the red and orange zone back to the yellow or green zone. The ethos in many high-stress work cultures has been that after a difficult event, one should be able to tough it out. This is still the case in many settings, where the stigma associated with reacting to stress or stress injury is still very real, and people will try to conceal stress reactions from supervisors so as to avoid medical or psychological intervention. However, it is usually not possible to keep these behaviors hidden for long from family members, peers, friends. When a peer recognizes that someone is in trouble, it's important to try to assist in some way. Getting this individual connected with the next level of help as soon as possible may help prevent their reaction from progressing into the red zone. Once an individual has moved into the red zone, the goal is to get them into treatment as soon as possible. The stress first aid model is based on research literature that says that people tend to do better in ongoing stressful circumstances when they have one or more of five essential elements to counteract the adversity. These elements are, first, being able to move towards a greater feeling of safety, being able to calm themselves, feeling connected to others, feeling that they will be able to get through what they're having to deal with, and having a sense of optimism, faith, or hope. Stress first aid maps onto these 5 elements and adds 2 more core actions because it's a long-term model designed to help support oneself and one's peers. The stress first aid model is initiated when a person experiences one or more stressful circumstances, which can occur either at work or in the person's personal life. Here, we're working at the pod, or you're visiting the pod to get inoculated. A stressful situation for all included. SFA is different from models like critical incident stress management in that SFA is only initiated if the person is showing evidence of experiencing stress reactions. It's also different because the stressors can occur anywhere and may be detected by fellow peers because of changes they see in a person's demeanor or functioning. There are 7 POD SFA core actions. These are check, coordinate, cover, calm, connect, competence, and confidence. Now, each of these 7 core actions is made up of 3 components. Contact. That contact explains how to establish a partnership with the person in crisis through respect and compassion. After you make contact, question. This explains what's data to collect and how to manage the process of the core action based upon that information. And then finally, act. Describes how to deliver information in a way that makes it likely that a person will accept it and comply. There are essential SFA skills relevant to all 7 core actions. These are paying more attention to signs of stress reaction in oneself and one's peers, to recognizing when stress reactions are in the orange or red zone of the stress continuum. Next, act. Acting early on in response to your own or a peer's stress. If you see something, do something, either for yourself or for the peer. Or you may need to say something to the person themselves or to somebody they trust. And then lastly, knowing. Knowing at least 2 resources that you would either access yourself or others offer to a peer in distress. It is helpful to know a range of both organizational and community resources. Remember that SFA is both a peer support and a self-care model that can be used to support peers and to increase your own self-awareness and improve your early response to stressors in your life. So, how can you use SFA? The Stress First Aid framework of possible actions was designed to be very flexible. Because this is a short briefing about SFA, we're going to use descriptions on this particular slide, which look at peer support and citizen support in a self-care situation. So, here's an example of how SFA could be used in a peer support. Ideally, what you would do ahead of any SFA action was to be aware of what's happening. You check, you approach. Paying attention in this way allows you to see changes in the way that the person is reacting or functioning that would indicate that they are stressed. Then you would either act to mitigate the stressful circumstance in the moment or approach the person and together decide what they most need at that time. These choices are usually based on what type of stress reaction they are having. Each one of the stress reactions could be handled differently. Are they experiencing grief, anxiety, sleep problems, isolation? The model allows you to be both practical and creative depending upon many factors and should look different with every exchange that you have with a peer. It's not a one-size-fits-all model. So, for example, if the individual is experiencing anxiety, a core action that might be helpful would be calm. Likewise, another core action which could be used with anxiety is cover. Lastly, a third possible core action to be used with anxiety is competence. And here we see the different types of core actions that can be used with the different types of typical problems that manifest themselves in stress reaction. Let's take a look at core action 1, check. The goal of check is to identify current levels of stress. With self and peers, you look for indicators of the ability to function in their role at the pod. With citizens, you have to judge very briefly by their demeanor. In any case, determine needs for SFA actions, other physical, emotional, social, or spiritual support, others who may need to know, and others who can help. So let's take a look at some of these check actions. First, observe. Look and listen. Keep track. Keep track of noted behaviors suggesting different stressors, distress, changes in functioning, responses to intervention. E- Examine. This means looking at one-on-one interactions, gathering collateral information. Lastly, decide. Decide what to do. And part of that decision process is analyzing what stress zone the individual is in, the level of dangerousness, and what those needs might be. The Oscar technique can be used to survey the individual for orange zone indicators and to gather information to answer the following question. Which stress zone is the individual currently in and why? Would he or she benefit from any of the secondary SFA actions to restore calm, create social connections, build personal competence, or enhance self-confidence? Is a referral for further medical or behavioral health evaluation warranted? Observe. Actively observe the behaviors. State the observation. Focus attention to the behavior observed. Clarify your role. State why you're concerned. Ask why. Seek clarification. Try to understand the other person's perception of their behavior. Respond. Clarify why you're concerned and state options in behavioral terms. Core action number 2 is coordinate. The goals of coordinate are to inform those who need to know. For example, does the pod supervisor need to know? The site manager? What about a stress response team member or other behavioral health professional assigned to that pod site? This figure shows the major components of the coordinate function of SFA. There are 3 actions that may follow, depending upon the information gathered during check. Collaborate. Collaborate means forming a partnership with the affected individual to expand resources and options that may have been depleted by the stress. This action is about getting the person to the next level of support, whether that be a mentor, a trusted coworker, a trained peer support member, a stress response team member, whoever. Inform implies actively engaging key individuals who have a need to know. This could be a site manager. It could be a immediate supervisor. It could be a partner with the citizen who's visiting the pod themselves. This action is most effective when it's done in collaboration with the affected individual. Refer. Refer stands for bridging that individual to a higher level of care when indicated. It's critical that the SFA provider understand boundaries and limits of their capabilities. When department members are suffering stress injuries beyond the scope of trained peers and other SFA providers, they need to be connected with appropriate organizational supports and resources. Making the public safe is one of the fundamental tasks of pod healthcare workers. The cover action of pod SFA promotes an individual's psychological sense of safety as you perform your job. Promoting a sense of safety has been shown to positively influence the way people process what happened to them both physically and psychologically, and can have a strong effect on the speed and quality of recovery from a potentially traumatic event. Doing your job well is the primary action that will make people feel safe or covered. To provide cover means to ensure ongoing safety. The components of cover for use with peers or citizens involve standby. This means standing by a peer or citizen and remaining available and ready to assist as needed, watching and listening for ways you might intervene if needed, or holding the person's attention if they are overwhelmed or panicky. Make safe. Making a person safe in any way you can, including by being the authoritative presence, by warning the person, by protecting the person physically or psychologically, or by assisting the person. When necessary, cover may also involve making other people safe, making them safe from the person if they are not functioning well because of stress reaction. You could do this by protecting them physically or warning them about possible dangers that might result from the stressed person's action. Encourage perception. Encourage perception of safety occurs in the long term for both workers and their families via caring presence, listening to feedback, and communicating about safety and greater commitment to organizational safety and order. This can be physically through maintenance of equipment, attention to worker fatigue and burnout, mentally and emotionally by reducing chaos and rumors within the organization. Potential SFA cover actions. Keeping in mind that stress first aid occurs only as needed and should be mapped onto the context and the personalities of those involved, here's a few examples of how to provide cover or safety. Depending upon the situation, you could ask about what's making the person feel unsafe. You could reduce anything that makes them feel unsafe. You could reassure them that they're safe in the moment. You could educate them about how to be or feel safer when they're having or reporting a flashback or trouble sleeping. In the context of a very stressful moment, focus on what to do rather than what not to do. Provide an authoritative and accurate voice to help limit the perceived threat. You can also support their psychological sense of safety through these three SFA components. Let's take a look at the cover component: contact. Don't assume that people know your role. Introduce yourself to the citizen or to the peer you've just met as you volunteered at the pod. Ask for the person's name and refer to them by name thereafter. Be respectful. Cover component: question. Ask if they have any question about what is going to happen. Ask if they have any special needs. Ask, are you okay? Depending upon their answer, ask if they would like to speak to a member of the stress response team or other behavioral health professional assigned to that pod. Cover component: act. If warranted, ensure that affected individual, citizen, or peer is moved to a safe location. Direct people's behavior by telling them what to do rather than what not to do. For example, instead of saying, get out of the way, try, I need you to move over here so you don't get hurt. Train pod peers on situational awareness and decision making under stress. Seek advice from the stress response team member or the designated behavioral health professional about any troubling issue. Core action 4: calm. The next core action of pod SFA is calm. You may notice some overlap between the concepts that make up cover and calm. Actions that promote one of these two functions often help with the other. However, while cover's goal is safety, it's important to understand that the goal of calm is to reduce the intensity of psychological, physiological, emotional, and behavioral activation. Calming those you serve will help to set them on the path of recovery. Reducing stress reactions in the immediate aftermath of a crisis situation has been proven to reduce associated biological reactions that interfere with sleep, eating, hydration, decision making, and performing daily life tasks. The faster people are able to return to a calm equilibrium, the sooner they can reestablish these life functions, and the less prone they will be to longer-term behavioral health problems. The choices you make about how to calm others will vary with the circumstances of the situation, the person you're dealing with, your own personal style. There are many ways to calm those you serve, and the following actions will assist you in achieving that goal. This slide shows the major components of calm. The first and most basic procedure of calm is simply to quiet. Cease physical exertion if possible. Some examples of this are to sit down or lie down, put down any items and relax with the goal of slowing heart rate. Regaining composure will help to restore cognitive functioning. The word compose means to help to pull back together that which is scattered or fragmented into a more orderly and coherent state. In the calm action, you can help people compose themselves by drawing their attention away from anxiety-producing thoughts and feelings and refocusing them on something else. The next component of calm is to rest, including helping the person recuperate, suggesting ways to help get them better sleep. Sometimes a good night's rest is the only thing that will restore a person to baseline mental and emotional functioning. The final component of calm is soothing, which means to reduce intensity of potentially destructive emotions like fear and anger by providing a calm physical presence and listening empathetically. This also includes providing encouragement if that is what is needed, or soothing in a way that fits your style and is acceptable to the individual. Calm actions are also supposed to be relatively simple. In the context of peer support, the actions you choose could involve things like just remaining calm yourself, reassuring the person by your authority and presence, showing understanding when the person is having a stress reaction, validating the things that they might feel concerned about, providing information about the fact that it's natural to have reactions in situations like this, providing information about resources that might be available to help the person get through the ongoing stressful situation, providing some brief instructions on how to ground themselves or breathe in situations where they are overly activated. Calm component contact. Demonstrate a calm demeanor. Speak in an even, reassuring voice. Address the person's most pressing needs and concerns whenever possible. Show understanding. You don't have to talk a lot. Your presence can often say more than words. Calm component question. Collect information in a calming way that does not add additional stress. Smile. Use simple, direct questions. Use reflective, clarifying, or summarizing statements to let the person know that you understand them correctly. Let the person answer questions at their own pace. The calm component act. Keep the focus on what is going on in the present moment. Ask the person to listen to you and look at you. If warranted, use distraction. Have the person take a short walk with you or get them a drink of water. Distance individuals when necessary. When working with people who appear anxious, keep them away from those who are extremely upset. Core Action 5. Connect. Individuals who have survived a crisis report better emotional well-being and faster recovery when they receive solid support from their family, friends, and community during and after the event. If you can connect the people you serve with supportive others, they will typically be better able to cope and can potentially take a more active role in supporting others. Connect actions. The first component is simply to be with the person. This means being present, making eye contact, listening, mentoring, empathizing, accepting them and their reaction. The next component is to promote connection. This could include finding trusted others for the person to talk or spend time with if you're not in the best position to be that type of support. It could also mean fostering contact with others, such as pairing peers up during stressful situations, encouraging contact with supportive others. Reducing isolation. Isolation can often occur when orange zone reactions make a person irritable and less able to function on the job, or if the person withdraws because they feel ashamed in some way. Assisting in such a case may involve helping to improve the person's understanding of the situation and of stress reactions. Often the SFA provider must help the person to see that stress reactions are understandable and acceptable. This component also involves correcting misconceptions and misperceptions in order to help reduce the stressed person's alienation and isolation. This includes clearing up misconceptions held by the person about their own stress reactions, as well as those held by others. Doing so will effectively restore the individual's trust in him or herself and restore the trust of others. In its simplest form, you can help reduce isolation by simply inviting and including the person into crew activities or pod activities. Research has shown that people who are experiencing significant stress may prefer different types of social support. Some may want to be included in an activity where others may prefer having casually friendly encounters. Receiving help and information in strictly practical ways or directly discussing emotional problems or reactions. Those who have PTSD reactions or who want to repress their reactions may avoid direct discussion of emotional problems. And it could be adverse events to their attention again can be detrimental. These connect actions are designed to help a person feel that they're not alone, that there are caring others around, and that there are many ways to be connected with others. Social connectedness is a strong protective factor following many types of adversity. Connect actions that have been identified for those who work in stressful jobs include asking the person what social support they have or what social support they would prefer, helping them link with supportive others, both at home and on the job, providing support to a peer yourself, or finding a mentor who's gone through similar situations, addressing potentially negative social influences on the job, such as people who might be judging the person or spreading rumors because of their stress reactions. You can also support their psychological uh, sense of connectedness through contact by appreciating that most individuals in a crisis or stressful situation want to be in contact with friends or loved ones. So make it a part of your job to facilitate those connections whenever possible. Ask if they have come to the pod alone or with someone else. If necessary, help to make a connection. The connection might be to agree to talk with a member of the stress response team or other behavioral health professional. Ask. Connect component act. If an individual is having difficulty locating their chosen friend or loved one, help them. If appropriate and necessary, encourage those in the immediate vicinity to provide either assistance or distraction for children, frail, elderly, or disabled individuals. If appropriate, ask the citizen if they would like to talk with a member of the stress response team. What about pod peers? How do you enhance the connect core action with them? Well, you can consistently show concern and caring. You can work to build teamwork. You can be a good mentor and role model. You can encourage discussion in the after action report and hot washes. You can reduce conflict, blaming, and rumor. Treat all volunteers and paid staff with respect. Core Action 6, Competence. The people you encounter in crisis situations have often suffered the loss of critical resources. However, they may also have had unmet needs before the event that brought you into their lives. One of the key actions that you can offer is to help secure basic practical assistance whenever possible. and or transfer them to someone who can help them get the resources they need. This will help increase their sense of control and self-efficacy and can improve their prospect for recovery. Generally speaking, the pod worker, other than the pod behavioral health professional, will not often find themselves using these last two SFA core actions, competence or confidence, with citizens visiting the pod. You just won't have the time. Rather, they will be frequently find themselves applying these last two actions with themselves or with peers at the pod. Building job experience or competence can reduce the risk for stress. Additionally, orange zone, red zone stress reactions might require competence in social and well-being skills. SFA action focuses here on building or fostering skills that will prevent or reduce stress reaction. The first component is to augment occupational skills that have either contributed to the stress reaction or that may be damaged by the stress injury. This may require mentoring or training for the person to feel more capable in a specific job-related skill, or to once again gain self-esteem from their work after a loss of abilities due to a stress reaction. The next component, well-being skills, can help the person deal with stress reactions such as by helping them gain skills in calming themselves, problem solving, improving health and fitness, and managing trauma and loss reminders. The last component of competence is improving social skills. Social skills needed to deal with the stress reaction, such as assertiveness, conflict resolution, help seeking. These are often damaged by stress, yet may become necessary when a person is dealing with a stress reaction. Competence involves either helping a person to be more skilled with specific requirements on the job so they can cause less stress or to become more competent in handling their own stress reactions. There are many actions that could help with both types of competence, including things like giving the person extra training or mentoring, asking the person to tell you what they usually do to calm down, reminding them about strategies and skills that have helped them in the past, encouraging or helping them to actively cope with things that are causing them stress, helping them to recalibrate goals and expectations that are contributing to their stress, helping them problem solve simple steps towards solutions to the things that are bothering them the most, connecting them to community resources such as chaplains, EAP, peer support, or other mentors who can help them feel that they can handle stressors. Competence component contact. Help to get basic practical needs met and connect the person to the resources they need. Act. Assist the person in taking the next step, whatever that might be. This might simply be making a list of to-dos for when a citizen returns home. What about with pod peers? How to enhance the competence core action? If possible, take an operational pause. Set up a time for refresher training. Develop leadership mentoring. referral to the SRT Support Center for individual consultation and mentoring, referral to the SRT monthly pod webinar for a discussion of new pod-related behavioral health techniques, reduce conflict, blaming, and rumor, treat all volunteers and staff with respect. People are more likely to have hope after experiencing a crisis if they have access to practical resources and are confident that there is a high probability that things will work out, as well as can reasonably be expected, or that outside sources will act benevolently on their behalf. Fundamentally, POD SFA is about increasing those elements that are related to foster a sense of hope or confidence. This is component 7 of stress first aid, confidence. The final SFA action is confidence, originally derived from research on hope. There's a lot of overlap between competence and confidence because when individuals feel more competent to handle what is in front of them, they usually feel more confident and hopeful. What distinguishes competence from confidence is that competence actions often involve training or mentoring in skill building, whereas confidence actions are aimed at affecting or altering inner states or thoughts a stressed individual may be having. Confidence actions are intended to promote realistic hope and build self-esteem, to promote confidence in core values and beliefs, and to bolster pride and commitment. Now this slide shows 4 components of confidence. First is trust in peers, equipment, leaders, self, or mission. The second component is hope, which can often be through forgiving oneself or others or imagining a hopeful future. The third component is rebuilding self-worth, which includes belief in self, an accurate and mostly positive self-image, self-respect, and awareness of the steps necessary to begin to achieve priorities and goals. The fourth component is aimed at rebuilding or facilitating meaning making, which includes the process of making sense of life, having a feeling of purpose or faith, holding a spiritual perspective related to life or belief in strong others or a higher power who will intervene on a person's behalf. All of these functions lead to a better sense of hope or confidence in self, others, life, or spiritual sources of solace. Confidence involves helping a person feel more hope or confidence in themselves, work, leadership, or life. As with other SFA actions, depending upon the context, on your relationship, and on your personalities, there are many potential ways to help a person rebuild confidence, such as helping a person feel more confident in themselves by pointing out what they're good at, telling them that what they are experiencing is expectable and understandable given their circumstances, helping them honor or make sense of a loss on the job or at home, helping them see the way that they're viewing the world or themselves differently, encourage them to find better ways to cope, avoiding judging them yourselves, and helping them reduce their guilt about their own actions if they feel responsible for something that has happened, reducing rumors or misunderstandings that others have about the person or distortions that the person holds that negatively affect their self-esteem or ability to cope. The confidence component contact. Try to keep a neutral or a positive attitude. When working at the pod, avoid making any comment that could be perceived as being judgmental. Confidence component question. Redirect the thinking of people who are focusing on or exaggerating aspects of the situation that increase unwarranted negative feelings. Confidence component act. Help focus the person on the present moment. For example, ask if they would like to talk to a member of the stress response team or other assigned behavioral health professional at the pod site. What about pod peers? How to enhance the confidence core action? Listen empathetically. Identify obstacles and find solutions to overcome them. Listen for and confront distorted conceptions or perceptions of self or others. Referral to the SRT Support Center for individual consultation and mentoring. Referral to the SRT monthly POD webinar for discussion of new POD-related behavioral health techniques. This concludes our presentation of Stress First Aid for POD workers. It's now time for you to take charge. For those who are interested in more in-depth training with respect to Stress First Aid, we have available a total of 6 hours of virtual training in 3 parts, also available on this YouTube channel. Feel free to address yourself and take these trainings if interested. Remember the purpose of the Medical Reserve Corps. The MRC units engage their volunteers to strengthen public health, improve emergency response capabilities, and build community resiliency. MRC units prepare for and respond to natural disasters, as well as other emergencies affecting public health, such as disease outbreaks. The pandemic, COVID-19, that's what we're doing. It's long haul. Stress is involved, both for ourselves, our peers, and the citizens we work with. Your next steps, if you're not already a volunteer of the OKMRC, you can volunteer at www.okmrc.org, as well as sign up to be a member of the stress response team. Thank you for your attention, and good luck.